Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1450 of our daily content grind. Today, we're going to go back to the video I did on weird random Botcon toys from the olden days of the Botcon convention, and all the weird things that happened with those figures, because, yeah, there's a lot of weird examples but some of the weirdest stuff happened with Botcon 1996, so I kind of mentioned in that video that the organizers, a company called Men in Black, every time I looked into them to try and explain what happened with the Onyx Primal exclusive, it just kept snowballing. And I promise you guys we take a look at that all on its own. So yeah, let us actually talk about Botcon 1996 itself and the organizer, Men in Black. I don't want to call out names here. You can find them. I'm just going to refer to them as Men in Black as a whole, because I don't know how many were behind the company. I know the owner. I don't know how many people were involved in any of this. I'm just going to blame everything on the Men in Black. And no, I don't mean Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. No, though they likely aped the name from the original comic books that movie was based on, because as you will come to find out, I'm not sure the organizers had a single original thought in their heads. So, we'll take a look at 1996's Botcon, which, as you can see by the program here, had, for some reason, a pulp fiction motif. I don't know. I don't know why they thought Pulp Fiction would resonate with Transformer fans, but here we are. I'm not a Quentin Tarantino person myself, but, you know, that's just me. Alright, so just to give you an idea of what is going on here, so I will give them credit. They spelled Scorponok right on the program. There's a lot of official sources that can't do that right. They misspelled Jetfire, though. They added a space in there. I noticed that. So, okay, so when you went to Botcon 1996, what were you promised going into the door? Well, for starters, if you had a special pass, you could get into the dealer room with early access on Friday and Saturday. Okay, cool. That's actually a great thing for cons to have in general. There was going to be a birthday showing of Transformers the movie, as it was the 10th year anniversary at the time. There was an advanced showing of Beast Wars Episode 1 and 2. That's actually kind of cool. There's another showing of the movie, just in case you missed the first. They had a panel by the Hartmans, the original organizers for Botcon, and the closest we got to famous fans at the time. A fanzine panel, which included Raksha, who would eventually go on, who was a previous Botcon organizer. Another showing of the Beast Wars episodes, just in case you missed that. You feel like they're padding the program yet? A quiz show with a few prizes. There's a few other little panels here and there, like how to repair toys, etc., etc. And there was a Toys for Tots auction that raised $5,000 for the charity. I'm not going to take that away from them. That is fantastic. Bravo, beautiful job. Okay? Not gonna fight that. And there were some things of credit there. So this did have, official backing from Hasbro at this point. There was a presence from Hasbro there. So they did have a few cool things. Like, it was one of the earliest looks at the original prototype of the Unicron toy that never came out. The one with the wonky arm. If you see this to this day, because the engineering is busted, and you don't go in and repair a prototype. You don't go in and repair some of the, I think there's only like 2 copies of this thing in existence. Yeah, you don't crack that thing open just so you can fix a gear in his shoulder. So you got to see the Unicron, which that was really cool. And I think it's the first time you got to see the double Pretenders. Yeah, and that's about the only time you saw them until, like, I think there was a few other Botcons where Hasbro brought them out of the vault, but that was like the first time we really got to know them. And there's a few other cool things in there. Like, they had the all gray prototype of a Micromaster transport/carrying case that never came out. So, okay, fair. Hasbro brought in a bunch of stuff that was cool to see. What about the con itself? What were they offering? Well, there is the Onyx Primal fiasco. We went over this in the Botcon toy, but I will go toy video, but I will go over this again very, very quickly. So, in order to get this produced, they had to get 1,700 of them made. That's the minimum the factory would run. So, at a con where only a few hundred people showed up, that meant they had just a few extra lying around. They donated 100 of them to Toys for Tots, for instance. Regular attendees could get a hold of it in this packaging that would make you want to take a scalpel to your eye. I don't know why it was in such ugly print. I assume it was a cheap rush job. You'll find that's going to be a common theme. But if you had a VIP package, you could also get this version. Oh, a completely VIP version of the toy, right? It's the exact same toy. It's just a different box that's printed a little bit nicer. And then there was the dealer exclusive version, which is numbered and has an extra stamp on the back. That one actually has a variation, so you can tell it's rarer than the common rabble of Onyx Primals. So this is generally the one that goes highest on eBay, if you were curious. But yeah, like, they had a lot. A lot. It took a while for them to get rid of them. And you'll see why. I know, and we're going to move on from this. We're going to get to the con itself. And you're going to say, but wait, that's not it. That's not it for Onyx. I know. We'll get to that in a minute. So, just for those who missed that original video, no matter what the packaging was, what you got inside was this thin bio card, which did not have a bio on it. It had Onyx Primal with a quote directly aping Pulp Fiction, one of the most famous line of Samuel L. Jackson, and then an alternate name for the toy, which is not cool, to say the least. So yeah, and then Onyx Primal is just packed in a factory bag, just loosely falling around in the box. There's no padding in the box whatsoever. So, yeah, not the best packaging job by a convention exclusive. Okay, so when we think about conventions, what do we think? What do we get when you get in the door? Well, you typically get a badge and a lanyard to show that, yes, you paid for admission and you are permitted to access this area of the convention. They didn't have those. There were no badges. There were no lanyards. There was nothing really to indicate that you were exclusively for this convention. You know what they had? They had these. They had, hello, my name is. I presume that means that you either pulled it off of your shirt for Friday and hope that it stuck to your shirt on Saturday, or just carried it around in your, carried a used sticker around in your pocket all weekend. I don't know. I assume that con-goers had to get them regularly, right? I assume the con-goers had to just like keep getting more of them, because like those things don't re-stick. It's one and done. I have to presume that because well, by day 2 they ran out of them. So by the end of the convention, you just had people wandering in and out, whether they were attendees or not. They couldn't keep anyone straight. We'll never know how many people actually attended Botcon 1996. We know it's roughly a few hundred, but we'll never get an exact number because that would have taken planning and organization. We can't have that. We're Men in Black. We're the opposite of the fictional Men in Black, who have everything sorted and organized at all times. Oh, how about that early access to the dealer room? Okay, so on Friday evening, you could get into the dealer room ahead of time. And now this is something that even carries on as almost a BotCon tradition at this point via TFCon, where, yeah, on Friday, you get early access to the exclusive toys. Like, okay, cool. So that kind of carries forward. But again, they organize this a lot better. For this convention, that early access was, I think, 7 p.m. on Friday, which was just after they actually let the dealers in to set up. The dealers got in. Dealers weren't allowed in for hours. They were hours late to getting the dealers into the room and only let them in at the last minute. So you imagine you're setting up your table and you just have people coming up, like attendees coming up, asking if you are selling a G1 Megatron. And when I say you're setting up your table, I don't mean that you're putting your product out. I mean that you are literally unfolding the table still. That's a stressful situation to put all the dealers in, isn't it? So that was a fiasco. So the Friday early dealer room was an absolute mess. How about the showing of the movie? Okay, so this seems like this easiest thing you can do, right? Just get a big screen TV, set it up, and then just, play the video. They obtained a sealed VHS copy specifically for this showing. That did not work. So they had to go find another copy. I don't know where they found it, but they had to go find another copy of the VHS cassette for Transformers the movie, and they would play that. Now, this was 1996, okay? Projection TVs were big, but you and I most likely have TVs in our houses that are bigger than this. The standards have changed these days. So, they didn't show it on a projector. They showed it on a widescreen TV that was available at the time, which is smaller than the normal TVs you see now. Like this screen is, I think, like 32 inches. I don't know the exact model they had, but back in 1996, this was considered a very large TV. This is what they would have been watching this on. Not a projector with a big screen so everyone could see it. And projectors were a thing in the mid-90s. You could have done it that way. Nope. Big TV. VCR. Now, they did advertise this as a birthday celebration for the movie, which means birthday cake was provided. A very generic, normal birthday cake. Not Transformer colored or not decorated for Transformers. Like literally just like we hopped down to Publix and we just picked up the first cake we saw kind of cake. And the fun part about the cake is that while they planned to serve cake to everyone in the room, they did not remember to buy forks. So there you go. Oh, and to wash the cake down, they did provide beverage. And by that, I mean water out of a McDonald's keg. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. The one specific that I could find about this disaster of a birthday party was the water was served out of a McDonald's cooler. So you imagine, you are just in this little room with dozens of other Transformer fans just huddled around, trying to watch this movie on this TV that from your position probably still looks very, very small and hard to see, while eating your cake with your bare hands and going, hang on, excuse me, I have to get up, hang on, excuse me, pardon me, I have to go back to the McDonald's cooler and refill my cup with more lukewarm tap water. And it was tap water, right? They just ran a hose into this bucket with a little bit of ice and just called it a day. They didn't even dump a few packs of like high C in it or anything. No. Again, planning, not their strong suit. And this general disorganization continues for basically the entire event. And it even happened ahead of the time. The reason we have Onyx Primal is because their original plan for an exclusive completely fell through, and that would be an Action Master RC. And granted, that would have been really, really cool. Problem is, they had no idea what they were doing and did not realize that steel molds were extremely expensive. So to get a brand new one produced to make this RC toy was absolutely unfeasible for them. Hence why they had to go with Onyx Primal, and hence why they were willing to take in 1,700 of the things when they were only expecting maybe 300 people at this show. They didn't have a choice. If they wanted an exclusive, that's what they had to do. So yeah, they had a grand time putting this together. And as you can see, yeah, what they could put on, not very well done. And what they tried to organize wasn't. Okay, so yeah, this was a mess of a show. By all reports, this was an absolute mess. And like I said, 1,700 Onyx Primals existing in the world. You couldn't sell all of them to 300 people. So, fortunately, they had other ways of doing this. Onyx Primal in another new box was available at Transcon 2. Because at the time they considered Botcon 1996 to be Transcon 1 and referred to it as such because, as you'll find out, they became so embittered toward Botcon they didn't even refer to their own convention by its actual name. But yeah, they had more Onyx Primals at Transcon 2 because that's what you have. Oh, and there's other reasons for that we'll get to in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. I can't find much on Transcon 2 other than a lot of what they were organizing kind of fell through again. Like okay, you got a few hundred people in a decent dealer room. That's about it. That's about it. Like, I can't find a whole lot on it, so it's largely unremarkable, I assume. I don't know why this one had, a Usual Suspects theme. Again, they just liked spoofing movies with their stuff, I guess. But similar, I do know that a lot of merch went unsold. I do know that there was not a great opinion on the show. But that said, there was fighting to be done. So I pulled this up. So, yeah. So here's Men in Black 141, which, yes, this is the actual organizers of BotCon 1996 and Transcon 2, who came out fighting. All right, let's go through this quickly. Believe it or not, there were a lot of people who considered Transcon a success. BotCon 96. Most of the Transformer fans are fans of the toys, because without the toys, Hasbro would have no reason to create a 24-minute commercial, month commercial comic book, or a 2-hour movie commercial. By referring to all the material as just toy commercials immediately tells you these are not actual fans. Because these are not the people who know that kids cried when Optimus Prime died and the whole fiasco of bringing him back to life. These are not people who were made aware of just how beloved these things were, right? So, yeah. So for those rare fans that focus their desire on toys, we present Transcon 2. This year with 340 attendees, 250 pre-reg and walk-ins, 90 Comic-Con attendees. So I think this was all... I'm not sure. I think this was all posted like after the convention, so at least you have numbers there. Hey, I guess they learned they need to count people. Last year, 45 dealer tables. This year, 43 dealer tables. I don't think you advertise the fact that you have less dealers. Tons and tons of parts as cheap as 25 cents. Action Masters, carded and loose. Tons of Japanese stuff. And most of it sold out at Transcon and won't make its way to BotCon. So, at this point, you realize they're making this post. Keep in mind, Transcon 2 was 2 weeks before BotCon 1997 and the new organizers 3H. So, this post is literally designed to absolutely sabotage the new license holders and the new BotCon, because they're just that bitter about how their show was received. Almost 2,000 raised for Toys for Tots. Okay, I'm, again, not going to take charity away from them. Exclusive viewing of Beast Wars outtakes reel. Now, again, unofficial conventions are very hard to find full records for, especially if they go back into the 90s. So I can't really find anyone who's actually described that blooper reel or anything about it. The only person I've ever heard talk about that blooper reel is Scott McNeil, who said they showed it at a cast party one year for for the holidays, and then archived it and never released it afterwards. So if one of the guys who created the show says that it wasn't shown to the public, I'm going to assume this is a lie. Don't know if it was or not. Feel free to correct me, but I can't find any evidence of people describing what the blooper reel was, so I'm going to assume it didn't happen. Doug Walker, voice of Pterosaur and Starscream, Pterosaur spelled wrong, who gave out secrets of Beast Wars' future, which he probably didn't know many of. He only had like 2 lines in Season 2. This continues. Let's see. Talk with the original Transformer US licensor. Okay, fine. Exclusive first look at Botcon exclusive Fractal and Pack Rat. Gee, thanks, John, for selling out and doing that. So, here's the problem. Okay, number one, you're taking shots at people who actually did something to help you out. But also, this got them in a lot of trouble. Back then, the appeal was to actually be surprised by what the convention's exclusive toy was. You didn't have weeks of hype or months of hype. You showed up and, oh wow, that's for sale here. You know? So the fact that they spoiled what the toys were before the actual Botcon convention that was going to be held 2 weeks later, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It's not the right thing to do. It's again, attempted sabotage of Botcon 97, just out of pure spite and bitterness. So if you love the toys and want the toys, keep on coming to Transcon. If not, we understand. For the people who have all the toys, hate dealers, and celebrate in different direction, more power to you. We salute you in Botcon. Wow. Hate dealers. Yeah, that's what Botcon does, sure. But don't destroy Transcon for people who want the toys. You're doing that yourself there, buddy. As for those who say the dealers shouldn't hold conventions, where are John and Carl at every convention? That's right, sitting behind their dealer table selling Transformers. How terrible. Yeah, so the Hartmans did appear at Transcon 2. They were not there selling toys. Yes, you could find them behind a table in the dealer room. They were promoting Botcon, and they were promoting their own stuff. They were not selling anything. They were there as guests. So it almost felt like they were invited to the show specifically so the organizer could absolutely trash them. Oh, and me trying to keep names out. Oh, there it is. Hi, Dennis. He would be a Dennis, wouldn't he? So, this is just part of the mudslinging that Dennis was doing to Botcon at the time. And John actually responded to this and could refute literally every claim he had as being absolute nonsense. He also blamed the Hartmans for losing out on what was supposed to be Transcon 2's exclusive toys. And we know what those are. So, what we were going to get, and I have to thank ToyArchive.com for actually archiving this stuff, so we have some preservation of what would have been otherwise lost. They were still going to retain a license with Hasbro and be able to release some actual Transformer exclusives. What they planned on was a follow-up to Onyx Primal, which would have been a white version of the alligator Megatron, which I believe is named Albitron, like albino. And if you know what the other name for Onyx is, it shouldn't surprise you why they went with this theme. It also doesn't surprise me that this was a Maximal. But they were also going to be doing Pterosaur's mold as Swoop. Okay, fine. And we do have material for this, by the way. Like, here was the box before they'd actually figured out the name. So this was just like the package sampling that they were going with. We have the insert, too, showing Albitron as the name. And then we also had this one for Pterodactyl, who would eventually supposedly be named Swoop. So the problem that came with this is that they announced these exclusives long before Transcon 2 happened. And that is a breach of contract, because they were advertising these toys as available at Transcon 2, even though they wouldn't be. Yeah. So when you do that, when you start promoting official product before getting approval from Hasbro, you lose your license and you don't get what you were promised. So he's trying to scapegoat the Hartmans for his own stupid mistake. That's why these toys don't exist. And that's why Onyx was the only exclusive they had that year. So, for those wondering, yes, there is a Transcon 3 as well. It was the last show that Men in Black ever put on. And again, with the idea that Transcon 1 was Botcon 96. They basically dead named their own convention. And we just said, no, that's stupid. See, this was actually cross-branded with a Microman Con and a Mego, or Mego. I never know how to pronounce it. I don't care. The dolls. The dolls. But by cross-promotion, their appearance there was a little more than just one person each showing off their collection. And that's basically it. Dealer room was apparently barren, or at the very least, very, very thin for this one. They promised the largest transforming exclusive toy ever for a convention. All they had were more Onyx Primals. They just never end. The Onyx Primals just never end. So they didn't have anything. They also promised that they would be selling scripts signed by Larry DiTilio. And originally they were going to do the agenda. And then Larry said that he would not release the script to Dark Glass. So then they tried to get the script to Dark Glass and then announced that that would be available for sale, signed by Larry. That didn't happen either. So yeah, that one was basically a disaster. Almost everything they promised didn't happen. Everything they did put on was garbage. So, yeah. That is almost the sad end of Men in Black, but they do have one more appearance to make. For Botcon 2000, they found out they weren't allowed in the convention hall. They were actually banned by 3H. For all the scummy stuff they pulled, they were banned from any 3H Botcon they're in. So they were not allowed in the door. They weren't allowed in the dealer room. So here's what they did. They put up this sign. They put up the sign for what they called Transcon 2.5, which is what they just posted on the door. The door being a room that they had rented out in the same hotel that Botcon 2000 was being held in, just one floor above. So this is the sign you found on the floor pointing you up into the extra room. They decided this is going to be the way to participate, even though we're banned. It's a really petty move. It's a really, really petty move. Okay, so special party during Botcon, open noon to midnight. See, prize, it's promising prizes, and a banquet, promising a banquet. The report is the banquet was old pretzels and water. I hope it was served out of the exact same McDonald's thing. I hope it was. More Onyxes were available. All the toys they were selling were reportedly very overpriced. A lot of unsold Transcon merch was there, to the point where eventually during the con, they would literally just toss it at convention goers who were leaving the show. They also trying to trade in, had a case of Metal's Ravage, and they were trying to trade one for both of the exclusives that Botcon was selling because they weren't allowed to buy them anymore. So this is the sad end to Men in Black Productions. In a lonely hotel room, serving stale pretzels and begging for bartered toys. Yeah, this took longer to explain than I expected it to. But as you can tell, this company is an absolute fiasco. This was literally the worst people to ever be handed the Transformers brand. And yeah, they only got one shot at it, and rightfully so. And then their own stupidity and unprofessionalism not only cost them more exclusives from Hasbro, it's probably also the reason why Hasbro decided to only support Botcon and not Transcon. So there you go. Don't be an idiot, I guess, is the lesson here. So there's your history lesson for the day. Promised it was going to come. Here you go. Hope it was worth the wait. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.